Hello, welcome to What She's Thinking. I'm your host, Greg Schwartz, your coach for online dating. I'm asking a group of women questions on dating, sex, and other topics, all submitted by men like you. To get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions. So here's the interview. So, what are your biggest turn-ons during sex?
Oh. Oof.
I love dirty talk. I love dirty talk, and I love when I give dirty talk and it clearly just like revs his engine.
Yeah.
And I also really love like when he clearly just like really digs my vagina. Like the more he digs my body and like my body parts, like the more I'm just like, oh, I don't empathize with it. Like I don't like vagina. Like I'm mostly like, I like men. So like, I'm like, oh, I don't know, like it smells different, you know? It's like a weird shape. It's got like, all these like folds in it.
They all don't look the same either, I can promise you that.
I don't find them generally attractive. Like it takes a lot of care, you know. It's just like it's kind of a break. Gotta get it waxed, and so. But like, when I see a penis, like that's a great penis. So like, it's kind of. Oh yeah,
Most penises look ugly to me. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm just saying. I think you guys will all agree.
I agree. I've been with women, but I do generally. I like men. I love penises, especially, and I actually was just talking about this. I was like, I think I've been blessed. I was like, every man that I've been with has had a nice big penis. And I always hear these things, and I was like, I don't even know if those really exist.
Small penises?
I mean, I know they do, but I like have.
Oh, they exist.
I've never experienced one, and I'm like, I feel like I'm like worried about it a little bit.
Nah, don't worry about it. Just because you're lucky.
No, just in the sense that my reaction, because I'm not great at reacting. Like,
don't have a poker face.
I do when I play poker, but not in this situation.
Fair enough.
I would say this, what gets me going is I'm a little on the rough side, which is probably not surprising. So, learning so much, are you? No, like, you know, if it's, like I said, I can get pretty primal, right? And if it's going to take me a lot to muffle the noises, like I have to fight so hard to keep my noise level down, that means you're doing it right. Usually when it comes to that kind of sex too, it just means that usually with men, I do date more men than I do women. Women, I behave very differently, but with men, especially, it's like, you know, a little bit more dominating where they can kind of throw me around, right? Like, I like being tough. I work out. I lift. I do all those things. So if a guy could just pick me up and throw me over your shoulder, that's fucking hot.
I love being tossed around.
Right. And you know, and like
smiles all around.
Yeah. So, but like my previous partners weren't always like that. They were a lot softer and smoother and like, you know, a lot more loving. And that's a completely different feeling too. So in my current stage of my life, I do like the rougher. I like vigorous. It's like a workout. It's basically, let's see how much we can sweat. Let's just go. Let's see how many you can get me in a session. You know, like, let's just go. Let's try all the stuff and see what happens. Okay, 3 hours later, all right, let's go to bed, you know? But, like, it really does depend. I just happen to be someone who, like you guys say, it's like, oh, we kind of like it rough.
Yeah. I want to say something about that, which is, like, if you are a guy, like, and you also enjoy rough sex and you want to have rough sex, like, learn how to actually do it properly.
No shit.
Like, it's so important.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's so important.
Warm it up first. Come on,
well,
you know.
And, like, there's, like, ways of just, like, handling a body. Like, I did have a former lover who, like, he was a very, like, strong man. He was big, but, like, he was clearly somebody who was, like, trained. And, like, he knew how to make sure that, you know, we could have rough sex and I wouldn't get hurt. I wouldn't bruise. I wouldn't, like, get, like, whatever. And I was deeply appreciative of that. So, like, I would say now, like, and I'd say since then, it is something that I have requested of my partners to be like, can you just, like, also, like, not
check
YouTube
in,
it.
yeah.
Like, actually go and, like, for realsies, like, learn.
The other thing, too, is with rough sex, is a lot of guys will make the mistake of immediately putting their hands on a girl's neck. A lot of girls like it. A lot of girls do like it. I've heard this. I'll tell you this much. It's the first thing that's going to get you punched with me. So, ask. Always, because that's a whole different level of everything else, of, like, domination. It's like, you have to ask. that is a very, very sensitive area for a lot of people that will trigger shit.
Yes.
And what I would say about that too is what I really enjoy, like the way that I prefer to be asked what I want and don't want and don't like in the bedroom is not while we're doing it. Like,
let's talk about it beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's have a drink. Let's just like relax for a minute and let's like have like a present conversation and dialogue first. And I will tell you like my yes, no's, and maybes.
Yeah.
And then when we're in the bedroom, then you know what my yes, no's, like, because it can often, like, I have been in situations with, like, guys like, it's just, like, this isn't sexy. Or like, let's talk about it before. Let's establish
it's perfect. This was the next question.
Right.
It was literally, how do you like to be asked?
Right, exactly. Ask the question. It's like, don't just try to slip it in, because that's just not cool. It's like, no, you can't put it back there. What the hell are you thinking? You know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
No. I don't think so. This is not a do it now and ask for forgiveness. Like, this is where you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I also, I always make sure that, like, I say, when I'm not okay with something, I will tell you. Mm-hmm. Because not a lot of people are comfortable, but I will. Mm-hmm. I will. So I make it clear, when I want something, when I don't want something, I will tell you, and it's not going to be, like, awkward or weird. It's just going to be, okay, just to know, let's move on.
I think you're right. Like, the unfortunate part is a lot of women, especially younger women, do not know how to do that. They don't know how to say no. So if you want to incite that level of response, it would be very wise to ask the questions before anything comes up. Negotiate everything.
Well in advance.
Like
while you're at dinner.
Outside the bedroom, just to be clear.
Yeah. Before you get into the bedroom. Or at least 10 minutes before. I don't know, Like, or use it as your, like, foreplay.
Yeah, like, maybe when you're taking your clothes off.
Maybe you actually like having those conversations while you're having dinner. It's like, I kind of like when this is kind of going on. Because that also by the way, that also clues you into, like, oh, if she's talking about sex right now, the likelihood that there is going to be a next step, even if it's not tonight, might happen.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, as a woman, she sort of has to offer it. Like, if I was on a first date with someone and they were like, oh, so tell me what you like in the bedroom, I'd be like, whoa, actually, that was, like, really inappropriate of you to, like, ask.
Agreed.
Like, when I'm ready to talk to you about what I want in the bedroom, I will actually start to offer it out.
No shit.
Like, I will start to open that door. Until then, like, because I don't know if I want to be romantic partners with you or just friends. Right. And, like, that's privy information to somebody who I actually want in the bedroom with me. And don't ask that because, like, I'm in assessment.
Right.
Like, do I want to...
You haven't invited that shit.
Yeah. Like, and when it's an okay for me or, like, an potential, then I will start to open up that door. Mm-hmm. But until then, like, if you knock on the door and I don't know if it's open or not, I'm gonna tell you it's closed.
Yeah.
Think of women as cats,
nice.
Oh, same with that with online dating. I do have a Tinder profile, and I know people say it's just for sex or whatever, but, like, if a guy immediately wants to come to my place without even meeting first,
I won't do it.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, I don't know if you're an ex-murder.
No. And I just, like, we can meet this. I just, like, avert the question to, like, oh, I can meet you at this place. And then we can see how I feel.
Yeah.
And if they're, like, continue to press it and they don't want to meet public before, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, don't do that. That is not a good idea, basically, ever. Don't do it. So one nuance with this, obviously better to talk about what you want, with sex before you get in the bedroom.
Right.
But since that doesn't always happen, if you are in the bedroom and you are having sex, how would you like him to check in with you about, what do you want or that kind of thing? Do you want it in, like, a very direct way? Do you want it in more of a intuitive way? How do you want that?
I think that I'm a little different than you guys in this sense that, like, I think you just have to assess your connection with that person. You have to be mindful about how your interaction before has been. So I'm a very open person, so I always make it very clear that I'm understanding and I don't believe in shaming people. And no matter what you say, even if I'm, like, totally disagree or, like, it's not for me, I will just say, no, like, that's not for me. So I'm okay with the direct. Like, even in the middle of sex, it doesn't really turn me on unless you keep going on. If he's like a one question and then we move on, that's fine. But if you keep asking or it becomes too much, then I'm like, okay, you can roll over.
I don't think there's any right or wrong way, really, kind of hinting and or being direct. I guess I prefer the direct, but it also, like, again, it depends on who I'm with. It depends on the person. It depends on my connection with that person. Because if I'm really feeling great, I'm pretty sure almost anything goes. But at the same time, I have been asked in the middle of, like, or I've been told, I want to do, like, someone's telling me, I want this to happen. I'm like, not tonight, you know? And if they just move on from it, cool. That's perfectly fine. Because you're right, not everything can be discussed, like, way early on. But if they try to push for it when I'm like, no, I'm not interested, that's going to change the mood all around. Then all of a sudden I get on the defensive, and then I'm just like, I don't want to ever see you again. You're clearly not a person who respects me. But even sometimes, like, little hints are fine. It just depends on how pushy that person is. If the person just tries something, like they put their hand in a place that I'm not comfortable with and I move it out of the way, they don't take that clue and they keep doing it, that's a problem. You notice, guys, pay attention to this. You put your hand somewhere, the girl moves your hand, don't put it back in that spot. Period.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say and this has happened to me, and with a recent partner, and he was like, can I do this, or can we do this, or would you be willing to do this? The way that he asked it to me was just so gentle, and they were really reasonable requests that, like, just pretty, like, regular sex stuff. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll totally do that. But there are scenarios too, like, some of it has to do with, like, how kinky of a request you're making. Like, if you're like, hey, like, can I go down on you? I'd be like, yeah, like, awesome, that sounds great. But, like, if a guy is like, can I choke you while fuck you in the ass while you're hanging from the ground? Like, I'd be like, like, we're going into an area that, like, is also a growth edge for me, and we would have to have much more conversation before we go. It's like, I don't know. Before I'd be willing to do that. So I think some of it does too has to do with, like, how big of a request it is, or, like, how reasonable of a request I think it is, which I think as a man is really hard to figure out, like, with women to gauge, because, like, some women, like, super love butt stuff, and some women are like, I swear to God, I'll punch you if you even go near it. So, like, you kind of have to, it's like, that's what's tricky about it, is, like, every woman is going to be different, so there's definitely, like, a risk, right, of, like, bringing it up where, like, you're either going to get it, or, like, I don't know, or, like, you'll get it, and maybe they're, like, resentful, or they think you're weird or something. So there's a risk involved, and you just have to be okay with that risk.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, I think women who, talking about butt stuff is one thing. It's like, if women actually like that kind of thing, they have to be able to be comfortable to tell the person too. If they're not comfortable with it, I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing. I think it's okay to ask, like, what you like and what you don't like when you're outside of the bedroom. And then if you get there, it's like, even if you say, would you be willing to do X, Y, and Z? If they're either going to say yes or no. Like, that's it. It's either, well, correction. They'll say yes, no, or maybe. Just imagine that if it's a maybe, it also means no. And, you know, and then I think at that point, you'd also have to tell them, like, if you really want something, you should tell me, because I'm going to respect when you say maybe or no and take that both as a no.
So we'll follow on to this. Which way do you like being asked, or which question do you prefer? Maybe is a better way to say it. May I do this, or can we do this, or what would you like?
Oof.
I think what would you like is a difficult one, because that requires a lot more words. So I think saying, like, what was really effective with me is he was like, can I this? And it had to do with, like, something to do with him pleasuring me. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, totally. Like, go down. But then after that, I was more inclined to, like, reciprocate. So I think as, like, a man, if you want to try something or do something, like, don't be selfish, like, do something, like, offer, like, provide value to the situation, you know, like, really just, like, go there. And then I think, like, asking, or would you be willing to, like, I think is a really good one as well.
Yeah, like, don't just try to push my head down to your penis. Like, that's not okay.
Oh, God. You know? Yeah, and I might do it, but then I'll do it for, like, 2 seconds. I'm like, done. I'm done now. And, like, and then it's, like, called. But, like, if I'm like, you know what? You did a really great job. I'm just, like, really
here,
reciprocating.
At that point, I'll just go.
Like, it's different. Yeah, like, listen. You just turned this from, like, a 2-minute blowjob to, like, a 20-minute blowjob.
There you go.
Because you were great. Like, you were gracious and giving at the beginning.
No, yeah, if you're that
always
giving.
Wait for a woman to offer a
Yeah.
blowjob.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's always better when they offer.
I'm okay with people asking. I'm like,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. The asking, but it is different if they were like, or they keep if you've already said no or I'm not ready or.
Sometimes I will say yes simply because like I know they will get so much pleasure and enjoyment out of it that I would then receive pleasure and enjoyment out of how much pleasure and enjoyment they're getting. So like, don't be afraid to ask.
So it sounds like overall strong preference for can we, may we, may I, rather than what do you want.
When you say I want or what do you like, especially for those people who are decisive, it's not a great thing.
Who are decisive or indecisive?
Or indecisive.
Okay.
That's right. Because they might not know, or they might not be as experienced in certain things. So when you do ask direct questions of what you want to do, then it's easier for the yes or no.
Or you can even say, I want to do this, or I'm interested in this. And it could even, by the way, it doesn't have to be a first date thing. It could be like second or third, because you don't want to let everything out of the box the first day, right? Like you just don't. Because like if you let everything out, then everything's going to be so great all the way forward. And like you set that expectation, you set that bar, and if you mess it up going forward, it's like, it's a huge letdown. So it kind of like, it's okay to get comfortable and ask the person a little bit later, like, I'm interested in doing this. Would you be willing to try this? Or, I kind of want to do this today. Are you up for that? And it's either a yes, no, or maybe, right? Or in this case, a yes or a no. So it's totally okay to ask. It's just, doesn't have to all be on the same night.
Yeah, like if the guy, like if you're with a guy and also he's like, yeah, can I stick it in your butt? Like, and then you're just like, no, man, like no, no, like there's this conversation right now. Versus like if you're on a date and they're like, yeah, like what, talk about like what type of pleasure do you like?
Yeah.
And like, have you explored this? Like, did you find it enjoyable? Is it something that you would want to explore again? Like then be like, oh, at what point would you feel comfortable exploring that again? And like you're more likely to get it if that's what you really want versus just like being in the moment and be like, ugh.
Yeah, and I've had people ask me like, have you tried this before? And I'll either say yes or a no if I've done it or I haven't, right? It's like, I haven't. And then if they say, are you interested or would you be interested? It's like, well, it depends. I mean, that really could be variable on whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be butt sex, but I'm just saying, like, he's like, have you ever tried tantric sex? Have you ever tried whatever? All these there are so many different variations of shit you could do related to sex. So it's like, let's have a real conversation about this and see what actually makes sense and what doesn't. And if there's a disinterest or I'm not so sure, don't push it.
Yeah. So going back to an earlier question, how long is your ideal sex session? And to be clear, we're talking about the in and out portion, not the foreplay. Yes, that was in the question.
Wait, we're talking about penis in vagina.
Yes.
Specifically.
And this is a long question. What's the minimum amount of time that's satisfactory? And how much time before it's too long?
See, that is like...
There were some really contemplative faces there. That was good.
It depends on a lot of things.
It does, because sometimes... I finally found somebody that I could have sex with that I was like comfortable after, unfortunately, like 6 months of no sex. But one time he like only had a break. He like came from work, like it was really fast, but it was so satisfying. And then he left, and I was like, oh, that was amazing. Sometimes the fast is great. Like quickies are like, I don't ever like to compare partners or compare experiences, because sometimes I want it to last longer, and if he gets off, then I'm like sitting there like, how long does it take for you to recharge? Like I ask that question a lot. And then if it's like less than 20 minutes, I'm like, perfect, then we can go again. So I'm flexible, but there are times it just depends on the amount of time you have. 2
minutes is too short for me. Period. That's it for me. For me specifically, it's just because it's just getting me going. Like I need a little bit more time. But
what's your ideal?
Depends on how I'm feeling. No, I mean, generally speaking, I don't think I've ever had a satisfactory session that was under 15 minutes. Most of my sessions are probably anywhere from 20 to like 45 minutes. I've gone as far as like 3 hours, with maybe mini breaks in between. It really depends on a lot of different things, but I guess there really is not an ideal. the ideal is going to depend on what I'm feeling like that day, what we did earlier that day, what we're getting into, and what things we want to try.
Yeah, I think the answer is it depends. Obviously, so my friend and I had this long conversation about this. He's a dude, and he was like, my general rule of thumb is like get her to orgasm first, and then like after that it's okay if I do or if I don't, but then we at least got her over the finish line once before I'm done. And then like, because then like anything on top of that is like great. And I was like, wow, that's so generous. Like, I think every man needs to have that rule. Cause like me as a woman, like I have with lovers, like when we do an evening session, and that's not like, P in the V all night. Like that's like lots of different playing and like doing all sorts of different massages and sensual stuff. Like I can go like hours all night, but I'll typically like I think one thing as a practice is I'll like tell the guy up front, like, okay, I need to like go to sleep tonight, or I need to be done by this time. Like, let's be time bound specific. We need some measurements. This is where I want to be spanked. Somewhere in this is what we can do.
Wow.
But I think that as a rule of thumb, like as a guy, if you're concerned that it's too long or too short, like maybe just make sure that she got a lot of pleasure and get her over the finish line if you can before you do.
Right.
Because, like once a guy comes, it's kind of like, oh, like it's like over. But like for me as a woman, like I would say with most of my partners, like when we are done with most of my former partners, when we would be done, I was actually okay with like keeping on going.
Yeah.
Especially if I had an orgasm. And even if I had orgasmed, like I had one lover, like even if I had orgasmed 5 times, like I could have probably gone for hours.
So that's what I was actually going to say. Like, that's my thing too, is if I orgasm, it doesn't matter what time.
Yeah.
But I also, in that, I have women friends who said it takes them 45 minutes to orgasm. For me, in 45 minutes of sex, I could orgasm 20 times. I also have, like, I'm extremely sensitive. I actually have, like, where sometimes I could laugh too hard in orgasm. I have like a mini micro orgasms, or I go over bumps in the road and I can orgasm. So I think it also, that kind of depends too. You want them to, and just make sure that they have pleasure. Now, when it comes to as far as too long, I think if you are just pumping and there's nothing else going on, and then you're going to just start to rub raw. And there needs to be more.
Right.
Yeah, like change it up.
I know.
Like
switch position
and like
something.
get weird. Like try something new, Like just constant like penetration. I went to the Hump Film Festival and it was the cis sex scenes that I was like, oh my god, straight people really need to up our game. There was nothing interesting or imaginative in any of it. And I was like, wow, we need to be watching more LGBTQ porn and just like get some new ideas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like, because you gotta get creative. Like, let's just get more creative.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it is a lot more fun when you start incorporating some interesting things. But yeah, no, I mean, sometimes it's too long. Like you both said, it's like if it's just not just dry, like just pumping and pumping away. It's like, dude, you're leaving bruises on that area. Like just stop. We're done.
Yeah.
But
it's not going to be the good kind of sore.
No. That's like the bruises where I'm just like, this sucks. You know what I mean? But like, if you could change things up here and there, whether it's slowing it down, speeding it up, like even stopping for going for a kiss and groping some other areas, or whatever the case is, use a toy, whatever you want to do to just change it up, then it can go for a long time. Like, I'm one of those that unfortunately takes freaking forever to have an orgasm, but like, if I have one, sweet, whatever. At that point, I'm probably done because it took me so long to get there. Now, if a partner can get me there 2 or 3 times, just know that, like, if they get me there and they're really good ones, they'll be satisfied knowing that I can't even speak for a good, 12 hours after that. So, and those sessions can all vary. Just change it up. There's no really such thing, at least for straight across the board, of, too long and too short.
Yeah, I mean, check in. How's she doing?
Does she look bored?
Does she look uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
Does she sounds like she's faking it just to make you stop.
Yeah,
you know? Yawn. Oh, let me look at my phone.
I don't believe in faking, so I just go silent.
Yep.
And then I'm waiting for something to happen, and if it doesn't, then I do something. I'm like, something needs to change.
I've zoned out in the middle of sex before. It's because they're just like, and I'm just like, what? Oh yeah, okay, I need to pee. It's been bad like that before. So pay attention. Just be aware and observant of what your partner's doing and how they're behaving.
I also would like to say, like, if she asks for something too, or like says something, like, don't
disregard it.
Yeah, or don't like make her feel bad for it. I've had a guy like say, "You really want that?" I'm like, "Well, not with you." like not anymore. Like,
you're like, go home, get out of here.
Is there an etiquette for when you are too busy when the guy's too busy for 1 month and then wants to get in touch with an old match to try again?
Is there an etiquette for that?
Yeah. So, in other words, if you've been talking to someone online and they get really busy for a month and you didn't go on a date and now they're like, okay, now I'm not busy and I'd like to try and take you on a date, is there a way you'd like to have them reconnect with you?
Have they actually said it from before? Like saying, hey, look, I'm going to be busy for the next month. They haven't?
I would expect they haven't, based on the way this is written.
Then I would just say, hey, for me, it's as simple as, hey, I know we tried connecting about a month ago. We didn't have a chance to. If you're still available, I would love to be able to actually connect and see if we can build something off of this. That's all you can do, really. It's either going to be a yes or a no. And some girls may be really offended they just ghosted them or took off or whatever the case is. Or as maybe you might get lucky and the girl will be like, I actually really like this person. I just didn't get a chance to, maybe this is a good time to actually meet up.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, timing is everything. And, I feel like for me, I will get on these dating apps and I'll have this very small window where I'll actually, pay attention to the notifications and respond and, hand out my number. And then if they text me, actually, move forward on it, it's a very small window and it doesn't happen that often. So if you are interested, and even though you've gone quiet for a little time, reach out and just recognize that, timing just works out where it doesn't. And just don't say something super weird or even, don't be too weird, too specific, but don't be too casual. Come right down the middle. And then if she is interested, she will respond. Yeah. And totally. If the timing works out.
That's actually really what it comes down to is if she's interested, she'll respond.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it sometimes, like you said,
right, you get busy.
Yeah. Things happen in your life, you have no idea what people are dealing with. And to assume that somebody just isn't interested, even though if you're still matched or whatever, maybe something just happened.
Right.
They're
Life
just
happens.
dealing with, yeah. And then you come back, you just say it.
Thanks for listening. To help other men find the podcast, please rate it on iTunes and write a review. Also, I'd love to hear your feedback. Which question did you find most helpful? Email me, greg@makeonlinedatingfun.com. And remember, to get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions.
My partner would love you. He would love you to pieces.
I'm the woman too that I will if I'm at a social gathering with friends, I want to be spooning someone. I don't care if it's a man or I just want to hug.